Well, you can see when I have videotaped this, I have my bandana just in case anybody comes to the office door. I can put this over my face and be protective and put my gloves on. Such is life today. I want us to look now at another response to Jesus that Matthew talks about in these postnatal stories. And of course, that's the wise men. The interesting thing about them, Matthew doesn't give us a lot of details. He just matter of fact tells us where they came from, what they saw, what they were after, but they provide a good role model for the type of people that we're going to see in the rest of the Gospels who come to see Jesus. Take a look at these texts from Matthew chapter 2. So depending on your English translation, these are wise men, these are our astrologers, these are magi. And from the east, not exactly sure where they've come from, somewhere in the area of what would be present day Iraq and Iran. Who these fellas are, again, they're men who would be deemed as having a source or resource of wisdom. They have some familiarity with the Jewish people. They study the stars. And for this group, and traditionally we think of three wise men, probably because they have three different types of gifts. But again, we don't know how many wise men there were. How they associated a rising of a star with the birth of the King of the Jews, again, is up to conjecture. But I don't think that's important to what Matthew's trying to get us to see here. These are the least likely people we would expect to even notice that Jesus was born, the King of the Jews. We wouldn't even expect them to care if they knew. And yet, certainly, if they've come from the east, which would be on the other side of the desert between Israel and the Mesopotamian area, they traveled a ways to get here. This would have been expensive, and of course we see later the gifts they bring would have cost them money. And so they represent those people who want to find Jesus. And again, they would not be on our top 10 list of people interested in Jesus. In fact, as Matthew frames this story, nobody in Jerusalem knows about it, nor after the wise men come and ask the question, do the folks of Jerusalem even care, except for Herod, and we'll talk about him next time. They come, and obviously that means the star they saw rise is no longer guiding them. They know enough that they're going to go to Jerusalem, the capital city, the political center of religious Jerusalem, to ask the question, where is this king who's been born? And they get a biblical answer for that. And then they go on towards Bethlehem because that's where Scripture tells them to go. And it's only as they're on their way to Bethlehem does this star reappear. And I don't know what kind of instruments they have to follow this star. But again, as Matthew describes it, the star, this bright planet, asteroid, whatever you want to call it, just places itself right over the location of where Jesus is. The other interesting thing is that as we look at the details, this is where when the wise men come to Bethlehem, it's not at the stable where Jesus was born, because we know that Jesus could be as old as 2 years old when the wise men finally make their way there. Now, they give gold, which we understand is valuable even today, but frankincense and myrrh, where it would have been a type of resin from trees and shrubs that would have been used for incense, burial, and I suppose if to kind of sweeten the smell of your tent or your home. So these would have been gifts at great price. Notice the joy they have when they see the star right over the place where Jesus is. They bust in, they see the child with his mother, and they just fall right down to the ground to worship him. Again, something we might expect from the people that Jesus came from, the people that Jesus came to save, his own people from their sins, but no. It is from foreigners. It is people far away. It is people who may not have all the biblical answers who come. And so for me, they represent what Jesus will say later on in the Sermon on the Mount. Ask and it will be given to you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who searches finds, and to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. These wise men represent that quality. And if you want to find Jesus, it doesn't matter where you start from. Doesn't matter what you do not know. Doesn't matter how misinformed you are. It matters that you keep asking, searching, and knocking. And may you be that type of person.